That's what we're here to find out.
The map, Cloud Kingdom. The player in the top right, as the red Terran's going to be Goody. Down here in the bottom left will be Grubby as the blue Protoss. This map, this matchup, what do you think, Apollo?
It's quite nice for both races here, I feel. I personally don't favor any side here. I think we can see a variety of styles and strategies being deployed. I don't think it'll be filtered down one area. The only kind of filtering I think we'll see here is that it'll most likely be a pretty fast second base, but from there on out, it can absolutely be anything.
I really have grown to like this map, specifically because of the Xel'Naga towers. They really provide an interesting conflict between the two players, regardless of what the matchup is. Controlling them from the low ground, sometimes you'll see players sit up on the high ground with an army. Protosses can use Colossus to, of course, step down, take it over. And it becomes so pivotal because then players start using these little areas in the north and south to dodge those areas and get into their opponent's side of the map. And it really, really makes for scouting to be so, so important on Cloud Kingdom.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the distances between bases as well, or not really bases, but your side of the map to your opponent's side of the map is actually really short on this map.
Yeah.
Even though it is a pretty spread open map, you have to be careful about stuff like that. We saw MC absolutely mind game MMA yesterday in terms of hiding his Colossus strategy and pulling that out and beating his opponent down. So that's something to keep in consideration. But one thing to note and see already is that Goody's actually taken gas, which is a little bit weird here because obviously one barracks expansion is a lot more favorable here. It's a lot easier to defend on the natural here. But taking gas is already started to push his options into you know, a Reaper, but it's not going to be because there's a Marine coming. So he's actually going to dedicate into teching all the way up to a factory before even focusing on his economy.
Very, very interesting.
Oh, wait, he's taking out a gas. Yeah, he's throwing down an engineering bay on the natural, and he's actually taking out a gas, and just with 50. So what he's going to use that 50 gas for is the reactor, of course, so he can just increase the Marine count and then still expand at the same time. But he can also still poke out, take map control, Xel'Naga towers, even put a bit of direct pressure on Grubby, who's going to be like, wait a minute, wait, why do you have these Marines walking across the map?
Right. Oh, and look, you see him pulling the SCV right at the last second. That's going to be so much HP to chew through of that engineering bay. And because of that, let's see how Grubby responds in terms of, is he going to save minerals or will he just use those to throw down the gateway? If he saves those and waits a little bit longer, the Marines that Goody's going to be able to produce might become very, very challenging for Grubby to hold.
Well, what Grubby's going to do here, I mean, he's not currently boosting out the Stalker. He's just leaving that Zealot to chop away there. And even the Zealot wasted a bit of time chasing that Marine, but I mean, chasing the SCV, sorry, but he should just look to get this expansion down as soon as that engineering bay falls down. But we have a bunker down from Goody. Pretty safe, I suppose, on that natural area to make sure that, you know, the Zealot Stalker or any aggression, even if gateways are thrown down right now, is that's probably the reason for the Reactor 2 to get the more Marine count up. Because if you do this, then you could have gateways being thrown down. We're actually seeing a robotics facility coming down instead here by Grubby.
Yeah.
And I want to say that it could be to continue his reactionary style of just getting a faster observer out to kind of find what's going on. But the way that he's saving gas and he's not building another sentry here, I have a feeling he may throw down a very early robotics bay, like before his Nexus actually completes. But that's a wild guess here, but that's what I may be feeling. But it could of course not be that. But
well, we will find out here in a matter of seconds as that robotics facility very, very close to being finished. Grubby's going to push
he starts
forward
a
with
sentry,
the Stalker.
so
yeah, sentry comes out now. So that will be delayed for a little while longer. Doing a little bit of push there on the natural, checking to see exactly what his opponent's up to. Observer coming out. Nexus about to finish here. Gateway just now finishing as well. Excuse me, Warp Gate Research finishing some gateways as well. And Goody starting to add on 2 more factories here, both with Tech Labs. So we should be seeing STEM. There it goes, actually starting, and probably Combat Shell to follow it up.
Yeah, I mean, he's already in the double gas too, so very interested to see if he throws down the factory first, which it looks like he's going to be. So he's actually going for a pretty damn fast medivacs in this game, so complete opposite compared to the previous one, of course, here. And he's even got the factory before the engineering bay and before +1. It's not the fastest medivacs out because you can actually get the factory before stim, but it's still, you know, the fastest normal medivac timings here.
Right.
Of course, not getting the factory before stim is a little bit normal here. But Grubby, on the other hand, is started as a motor production and also taking a gas on the natural here in the second gas. So he will be going for the robotics bay by the looks of it. But of course, it wasn't pretty early. It's on just a regular timing.
Yeah, yeah. And what we're seeing from Goody is kind of the what you were getting at, the standard play from Terrans. They usually push out with the first 2 medevacs. It sets up a nice timing with combat shield, with stim finishing, and that is definitely what we're seeing here. It gets you in right around the time the first Colossus comes out, but not 2, so you can deal a lot of damage. And robotics bay started here for Grubby. He's getting another observer out, already having 1 on the field. A lot of energy, though, on those sentries, and he is kind of pushing out a little bit.
Scan goes down to pick off the observer there. But the thing is with these early medivacs is they actually can come. The 2 medivacs can actually come out before the first Colossus here. Especially if there's no chrono has been used. That's the key point here. But that's what Grubby already knows this. He's already seen the factory, he saw the late engineering bay. So he's actually very confident in what he's doing here. He's going to spend the chrono boost in that Colossus, get it out, and it's going to be immediately shut down. We even see a turret being placed down here by Goody to prevent the observer to actually come in and scout and see Goody's army movement. But Grubby has another observer in the center of the map that's just on the Xel'Naga tower, just moving up, and we'll just stay outside of the range of the turret. And likewise, factory being used here too. But you see the first 2 medivacs coming out now before the first Colossus. But if Grubby just chrono boosts into that now, it will actually come out just in the nick of time. But Viking production has already begun. He already knows.
Goody does not want to have a repeat of game 1.
And that's a blind Viking, by the way. That's like really weird to see this happening. But he's making assumptions. He did it in game 1. He's doing it in game 2.
And let's see how it works out for him. Here is that push. Out with the first 2 medevacs, stim and combat shield finished. 3 more gates being added on here for Grubby. They should finish right around the time as this attack starts here, which will help him out so much in terms of just army reinforcement. You can see here that Goody's opting to stay away from that Xel'Naga tower. And you could potentially cut some of these stalkers off, but he does not have concussive shell. Will he stim? No, he will not.
Grubby actually has to start producing quite a few stalkers shortly because he only has a few out right now with this very early Viking production.
But
he's going to have to, but...
Look at the Colossus placement here in the main base. As was that just a miss rally? I thought he was going to put it up on the high ground. Meanwhile, there are the force fields being dropped. A huge stim from Goody. That's going to use a lot of
Viking has landed here. I mean, he doesn't know about the Colossus still, remember, guys. So he sees a lot of zealots out, so he thinks it's actually just a ground army. But look, well, luckily for Grubby, that's not quite the case here. And Grubby is still hiding. Look at this, so intelligent here, played by Grubby. Hiding his 2 Colossus. He could easily move down and kill this army. But what he's going to do is the element of surprise. Look, the Ghost Academy is in the production tab. Grubby absolutely destroying in mind games. Where's the force field? He gets behind the army.
No, not good here for Goody. 2 Vikings do go up in the air. One of the Colossus falls, but the entire ground army taking out. And Grubby can push across the map here. He's going to have 2 Colossus with that and a huge army still. A big warping of Stalkers. 120 supply to the 87 of Goody.
And Grubby doesn't have to kill his opponent. He just has to poke up there, do damage, and expand behind it, which we're seeing here. And he can also add down Double Forge in a few moments' time too, once that Nexus kicks in. Or not really kicks in, but starts to get past 20-30% and has spare money now. But this push alone is pretty scary. There's so many Stalkers here. There are 2 Vikings, but already damaged. 2 more about to pop out. But the Stalker count can easily pick them off in 1 shot. 1 shot each. And then, of course, the Colossus will survive for a lot much longer.
Puts 2 Marauders in those bunkers. And here goes Grubby moving forward. Good force field there in between the bunkers. Great force fields coming down for Grubby, making sure that no units can get by. The Vikings coming in from the back.
The Vikings go down.
They get
and the
cleaned
Colossus
up.
is still there.
Colossus is still there. You could pull back, let that Colossus range down that bunker. The SCV's coming through. 2 more Vikings pushing out, though. Grubby is being forced out, but at the cost of a lot of mining time and some SCVs there. Really not all that many, only losing 8 though, and that Colossus falls. Grubby actually overcommitted with that attack.
Well, he didn't because he can afford to do lose a lot of units there because he has third base, and a lot of SCVs were killed. This is the big difference. Like 10 SCVs or so, I guess, were killed there. But Grubby still has a decent army size, and as long as he just pushes this back, which he has the economy and production to do so, he's in a great shape.
Here comes Goody now. Sees the third base of Grubby. That one Colossus is going to prove quite troublesome. Stemming forward, though. Colossus single target being down here. Force fields being dropped. The Zealots are able to connect. Colossus still up, dealing so much damage. Now it falls, but there is still a pretty big army actually here for Goody. Right. He could actually fall back.
I didn't really notice that the Goody was at +1 there, and now at 1-1, so this is actually a lot more tense than I thought it was. I didn't notice the upgrades, but with another Colossus coming out, he will be able to push this back. It's no way going to kill Grubby, but he is taking a lot more damage than he should have took there.
Yeah.
And well, that's the late forges coming into play. But he keeps the Nexus alive, and Goody trying to stim around to actually pick it off. Grubby out of position. If he stims in, picks the pylon off, he's going to pick the pylon off now and then target down the Nexus, and he could actually kill this if Grubby doesn't get there in time. Stim, Goody! Stim!
Maybe he can hear us through the wall if you yell loud enough. He should be able to take this out, though. Get some more reinforcements coming, not having to use stim whatsoever. Looks like he did not need it. He's shaking his head. No, Apollo, I don't need to stim. That Nexus just fine. And we have ourselves a game here after we thought the last attack in that expansion was going to be
This army's
huge.
so weak by Grubby, and Goody's going to take the engagement here.
Having to pull probes here. Goody, though, still losing a lot of his army. Those Colossus proving the big damage dealer. And Goody now with the stutter stepping. Colossus will not be taken out by the Vikings because they have been taken out by the Stalkers. The 1-1 upgrades here kicking in for Grubby.
Yeah.
He's going to push Goody out.
And down goes the Medivac. There are a couple more Vikings being streamed over, but the Stalker count's still high, and we'll be able to target them down pretty fast. Colossus raining up the damage, and finally, Grubby actually gets control of what he should have done, could have done a long time ago. And Grubby will want to try to take that third Nexus again now. But remember, there's no actual third command center down. There are 5 barracks in total here, so the pressure's going to continue for now for Goody. He smells weakness. He knows Grubby is under a lot of pressure, so he's going to continue to do this. He still has a decent size of an army, but with 2 Colossus out, a third one on the way, Grubby still, is of course in a great shape and is playing it very cautiously because he sees with a Zealot that there's no third base of Goody.
Right.
So he knows that he doesn't have to rush to take a third base. He can actually play this a lot slower than he needs to. He's actually just going to sit back and get a 4th Colossus in the mix, keep adding to his army, and then slowly take his third base.
I would also expect Grubby to go for a text change here pretty soon because he knows his opponent's going to be forcing out so many of these Vikings. Already up to a total of 2 with 4 queued. But at the same time, he might not have the economy to really
he doesn't really have
that tech.
the resources to tech switch because he has to, of course, throw the Twilight Council down, then the Templar Archives down, then the High Templar, so gas intensive. But what he wants to do now is just overpower and go toe-to-toe with the army that he has versus Goodies. And there's only a handful of Vikings there, and once again, Grubby sees the army, but there's only 2 Vikings. There's 5 Colossus about to be here. 2 more joining in, so a total of 4 now. 2 more still in production, so even now, in a few seconds, he'll have 6, but there's still 5 Colossus, a big army for Grubby, equal upgrades. Let's have a look how he slices this army up.
Here we go with these 4 Vikings. Will it be enough to be able to take out the 4 Colossus of Grubby? The army of Goody is doing an okay job, but now he's going to be forced to retreat. Force fields, though, are going to deny a ton of units from doing so. And Grubby's actually started at 3rd base and just won a very big pivotal fight in this second map.
Yeah, he'll throw the Twilight Council down now as well, probably. If he wants to continue through with this, he's at a great advantageous position now as well, since things are stabilized. And he may just go for the kill, but Grubby should, it looks like he is going to, and he should just sit back and be like, all right, I'm in a good position, stay calm. Close my eyes. No, don't close my eyes. Don't look behind you either because that's pretty scary too. You're very high, 32 floors up. Just throw the Twilight Council down, continue to upgrade, continue my Colossus production, and everything's going to be fine. That's what should be going through his mind right now.
I think he was a little bit wary too after going for that big counterattack early on, and Goody's still holding it. So let's see here what he decides to do.
Well, he's not throwing the Twilight Council down, which basically says that, all right, well, I still know Goody's on 2 bases. I have a scout in the bottom right, which is the observer, checking the other expansions. He's still on 2 bases. I don't really need to go to 2-2. I don't need to invest money in the Twilight Council. But upon seeing a command center about to be constructed, or seeing the units and the SCVs going down there, now he's like, all right, I have room to breathe. I have room to breathe. He's expanding. That means he's building SCVs, which he's not, by the way. He's just transferred from the natural to the 3rd base. This is now the room that Grubby obviously needs to just get into rhythm, get into pattern of how he wants to take this game out.
The northern pylon allowing for some great warp-ins here to this 3rd base of Goody. The factory will fall. He's going to be able to take out 1 Viking with it as well, and only costing
big,
1
actually.
Stalker. It's a pretty big trade there. Yeah, like you were just
like, there's no armory down, so like his upgrades, Goody's upgrades, are so far behind now. So Grubby is in a great position now, especially with this new base setup, the Twilight Council coming, so he can actually now research 2-2. Like, he doesn't need to be attacking now, but he can. That's the thing. He doesn't need to, but he can.
Viking count here for Goody is quite high, and Grubby is not liking what he just saw, so he will fall back there. I think losing 1, maybe 2 Colossus.
Yeah,
in
like
that fight.
like I said, he doesn't need to. If he can do a little bit there, but he doesn't need to overextend himself, because imagine if he walks up there and just loses everything and then loses the counterattack. It just throws the game away.
Yeah.
So he has to be very close right now. And there are the poll results, by the way. 88% for Grubby, just 12% for Goody, despite his MMA loss. Maybe the 12% is because of MMA loss.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Grubby, of course, I mean, we mentioned the fan favorite, and that poll basically proves it. Do you know that Grubby actually has 700 people following him on his Chinese Twitter?
700?
700,000, sorry.
Oh, that's not that much. Once again, Grubby just forcing the big stim, force fields off, doesn't really want to take a fight. Has Zealot charge on the way, Templar Archives as well. So here comes that tech switch now. As you said, he can afford it now. Here's a time where he basically takes the gas. He's got 800 gas in the bank. It's a lot of High Templar. He can put a lot of High Templar here, and he adds on, like, he doesn't even need to get Storm. I mean, he can, but he doesn't need it. Right. He can just go, like, all Archons and just still pick up the win here. But Grubby, weirdly, isn't researching 2-2 yet. It's a little bit weird, but of course he's making his army bigger because of it. And there, the High Templar is like, all right, I don't need Storm. I don't need it. I can just win without it.
3 Archons are merging, but Goody is right outside his door, knocking with his army. The Vikings out of position, though. Colossus able to connect in a big way here. Army size is dwindling for both players, but it looks like Grubby is somewhat in the lead now, but the Vikings still taking out the majority of those units, and the Archons now going in. Goody is forced to retreat, and with that, his supply is so low. If these medevacs are actually taken out, that'll be great. One of them goes down, but without Blink, he will not be able to connect with the other 3.
It's really funny that Grubby starts 2-2 now. He's like, all right, well, and now I've got the game win. Now I'll upgrade. But as you can see now, Grubby just with a great army composition, a great army size, and is now taking out the expansion of Goody. Goody back down to pretty much no mining bases. He's got like 200 minerals left in his main base, maybe a little bit more than that. It's like 400-500. No mining on the natural either, and Goody is just gonna call GG, and Grubby slowly, very carefully, JP, picks up the 2-0 win and advances through to the loser round number 3.
And it is still undecided, as far as we know, on who he will actually be playing. We'll get Paulo to check for that real quick. But guys, over at the analysis desk, we're joined now by Total Biscuit and Rob Simpson. What did you guys think of that series?
Couldn't have been more even up until that one last engagement where he didn't have his Vikings in place, and that was the most critical thing. You saw the Viking DPS once they got connected. They were 2-shotting Colossi. If that had happened earlier on, the amount of damage inflicted on the forces of Goody would have been much lower, and then we could have seen that trademark stim surge of the Marauders in once the Colossus fire had been dealt with, and that would have crushed the army. But unfortunately, it was a great engagement for Grubby and not so good for Goody, and that is what did him in.
Yeah, and Grubby was also being very mindful of that Viking positioning the whole game. Obviously, Goody was obviously staying on top of his Viking control just about as much as he could, but every time that Grubby saw those Vikings getting anywhere near in range, we can't even count the amount of times that those Colossi just escaped with like 40 HP remaining, right? Like one more
Grubby
volley.
Colossus micro. You don't even need to say any more than that. It's blindingly obvious that that micro comes from this Warcraft 3 career. People keep bringing up the term Warcraft 3 micro as if it means anything, but just say Grubby micro. That's all you need to know. It's great quality stuff. He controlled excellently well. We shouldn't take anything away from Goody, though, because that was stupidly even. It really was. He did so well. Great counter pushes, excellent pressure onto the third area, onto the natural, and only held off by the tiniest of margins by Grubby.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Goody, now, you know, it's kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
Takes out MMA, gets a huge, huge 2-0 win on MMA.
You should have seen his smile after that win. And, and I'm sure it's gone now. We probably won't see it for the rest of the weekend. But it was a really nice smile. He was on the, you know, the high throne. But unfortunately now Grubby has dethroned the German player.
You know what I don't want to see?
What?
That death stare at Grubby, man.
Oh, man, that was scary.
I hope someone made a gif of that or something.
The update, like, is Grubby's going to be playing the winner of Rain and Ryung. Ooh. That's actually a very difficult game for Grubby going on there. Yeah, but he played very well. I mean, somebody posted on the internet too is that the force fields from Grubby are actually fantastic throughout all the series, actually.
Right.
The way that he places 3 down, and then he locks them behind as well, and then he creates like a little ball of units. It's actually fantastic, and we saw that displayed throughout.
Yeah, and there's very little overlap too between those force fields, which is really, really awesome. Guys, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the NOS performance replay of that last game. Apollo, why don't you take it away?
And this is the point of the game where, look at these force fields. I mean, they do overlap a little bit, but this is the hiding of the Colossus, the initial strategy from Grubby. And then when they do come into play, we actually will see those key force fields of exactly what I said. But this is great play, and it really forced the wrong reaction from his opponent, because this looks like Grubby is scared. Grubby is not scared at all. He's actually very confident in this. And very shortly, we're going to see how this comes down now. As he brings in the Colossus, here comes the aggressive force field behind the units. And look how easy Grubby just destroys absolutely everything. Yeah, very, very one-sided fight there. And here's a little bit later on in the game from another action point here. And this is kind of the end-deciding battle here, where Grubby had Dark Control, 4 Colossus. Look at the Vikings. Yeah. Vikings so far away, and a squad of units too. Yeah. And even though the Vikings finally get in there, the Stalkers, you know, one-shotting them basically there, and they don't survive whatsoever. And that's the kind of end engagement, end victory that pushed Grubby onto the next stage of this MLG Spring Arena tournament.
Absolutely.